So yes, I'm going to be doing some valve clearances on some Perkins 635s. There's 2 of them to do. Also, brain is not with it today at all. Is it ever though? There we go. I've got 3 bowls to change on the cab filters. On this engine, they've got pre-filters at the top, and then there's fuel filter on the engine itself. But the pre-filter's got a glass bowl. Glass bowl's acceptable at sea and on the Thames, I think. Don't quote me on that bit, but inland stuff you should really have metal bowls to pass to BSS. However, one of them's got a crack in it, and they're not very deep, and these will allow for any water be collected because they're, you know, it's a pre-filter. I've got 1 for each engine, and there's a diesel heater I'm going to change that to as well. The next thing I'm going to do, I was asked to do it previously, so I've actually serviced these engines about 2 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago. It's been a while now. There was a raw water inlet. The elbow had reportedly been damaged, was failed. When I looked at it, it was just a weak, leaky pipe. Apparently it leaked again afterwards, so I've got a new elbow to change, which should have just done it last time, but it did seem like it needed it, and I hate charging people things they don't need. So nonetheless, here we are. So that's it, 3 jobs today. It's a little bit of time. I'll do some filming and you can watch. See you back in a sec. Another nice boat, this one. So under here we've got 2 Perkins. To say, I've done an engine service on them a little while back, not that long ago actually. Did the coolant on this one. I know you can't see it in a minute, I'll get up in a sec, and it was like brown sludge. It was awful. So that was well overdue being changed, and the coolant in this one was changed. It wasn't too bad actually, but it was again due to be changed. Right, let's stop waffling too much. I just bought some filters, that's interesting. But these are the rock cover gaskets that I supplied my last visit, so I'll be using those today. Let's get these covers up and have a look underneath. Lovely boat this, absolutely gorgeous. Everything's white again. Let's do this. Dust everywhere. I think the liner from that carpet is coming up, so. I think he's going to get my hoover for this. Can't have any dust going in the engine. Back in a sec. Okay, I just need to set the engine up to do the relevant positions. Oh, what have I knocked over? Is that blooming pole? I remember that from last time. I'll just stay down there for a minute. There's a bilge pump pole behind my butt and it keeps falling off. I did it last time. Right, I'm going to bring number 1 up to where position here. Okay. I'll explain a bit more in a second. It's just very heavy at the minute, so give me a second. So I'm just looking through my Google Drive. I keep pictures and manuals and all sorts for reference. So I glanced at it this morning. I can't actually remember what the correct clearances are for one of the valves. I know it was 0.18 of an inch and 0.45 millimetre, but I'm just going to double check because That's what a manual is for. 0.20 inlet of a millimetre and 0.45 for exhaust. So in old hat, I don't know if you can make that out on camera there, but it shows you there in the book. Let's have a look now. To check or adjust valve tip clearances. The correct clearance gauge, which is fine. With the valves rocking on number 6, i.e. the period between opening of inlet and valve and closing of exhaust, set the clearances on number 1. So basically you're working at opposite ends of the camshaft effectively. Each engine seems to have their own process for how they do it. I guess they work that out in the way that they think is appropriate, so I shouldn't argue with that. What I've done here is I've hand cranked the engine, barred it over. There's at the end of the crankshaft on this engine is basically a spigot, or we want to call it, with holes in it, so I can just get a bar in there or a long handled screwdriver, hence this, and then just crank it over hand wise and get it where I want it to go. So I'm just going to make sure that the number 6 valves are just opening and closing, which is nearly top dead centre from that point of view. Come back up to number 1 and then adjust the clearances. That's my understanding of what it means. I doubt someone will be screaming at me somewhere going, no, do it this way. Okay, and you can make out the inlet and exhaust of opening and closing. I'm just on the close part of that, which means the pistons will be very nearly top dead centre, I should imagine. No, sorry, wrong end. So at this end it will be on its downward stroke coming back up again, because it's done all the work it can do. It'll be exhausting the exhaust, and then it'll be looking to come back on the induction stroke. So number 1 should be clear for me to just put a feeler gauge in there and just test its position. It doesn't say anything about putting the engine at top dead centre anywhere, which is interesting. They've done it this way. The valve tip clearances should be set to 0.008 inch or 0.20 millimetre for the inlet, and 0.018 of an inch, 0.45 millimetres for the exhaust, by using a feeler gauge between top of the valve stem and the rocker lever, with the engine hot or cold. When setting valve clearances, the following procedures should be adopted. When the valve's rocking on number 6, i.e. the period between opening of the inlet valve, closing of the exhaust valve, set the clearances on number 1. So I've got this rocking here, which is what it says. So now get the feeler gauge and check to see what space I've got between there, and see if they need adjusting. If they don't need adjusting, then I've checked it, and that's what matters. So looking at the engine, if you're not sure which is inlet and the exhaust, one of the ways of doing that is either look at the book, and the book will tell you, or if you haven't got that, look at the manifold. So this side is, at the top here, is the exhaust manifold. I know that because I can see the exhaust and it mixes with water. If you look at the casting, it comes into the head. There's a port here, and the port here is allowing this to come off of this top casting into here, which suggests that these two inlets, these two valves here are of exhaust, because the port will open up and span out that way. Or am I making that up? It's hard to see at this stage. I think actually oh no, stand corrected, this is actually part of casting. So this is exhaust, inlet, inlet, exhaust, exhaust, inlet, inlet. No, hang on, done it weird way. Right, exhaust, inlet. Hang on, is that the? Oh, yes, that's inlet there. Oh, okay. No, right. So what we've got going on here, basically, I'll try and get in the light here, and you can see what's going on. So this is an inlet part. At the back is an inlet part. The castings go down into the air intake manifold, and you've got the heat exchanger for the exhaust. So this is inlet, this is exhaust, this is exhaust, this is inlet, this is inlet, this is exhaust, this is exhaust. So they're doing it in twos rather than 1 2 1 2. So let's just double check the book again. Muddling away. Point 20, 0.8. So I need 0.18, which is what I've got. 1845 for the inlet, and then 0.20 for the exhaust. Let's try and find 0.20. It should be just above the 18, 17, 16, 0.30, 0.02, 0.16, 17. So where's the 0.20 then? .008. There we go. So there's my gauges with the thin one. That's for the inlet, and the thicker one is for the exhaust. Right, feels a little bit loose to me. Interesting. So it's a little bit out, and that's a little bit over. Let's just double check my position on the rotation of the engine. Where am I here? I hate it when things slip. That hurt, that did. Oh, okay, let's adjust them. I just want it to grab the feeler gauge, just so it's just grabbing it. Right, clank it down. That's it. Too tight, you start to open the valve and you're getting a misreading. So back a little bit. Back a little bit. Turn on there. Okay. Spanner stiff. Right, just snug that up for a second, so have a feel. I like to use the whole get feeler gauge because there could be a slight discrepancy. That feels good to me. It's just grabbing it. So So we'll work back against the spanner action and then just nip that up. There we go. That'll do. Some fill. A point to make is what I will do with this is once I've done the job, I'll give everything a spin and come back and check everything again anyway, just to make sure. And that feels pretty good to me. Yeah, it's just grabbing it, which is great. Oh, I seem to have put my point 20 away. So look. Oh, I put 18, right. That feels good, it's just grabbing it now. Oh, back a tad. The trick is to hold the screwdriver still, that you don't turn it with the spanner. Like this, I can just feel it. You can't see that probably, but I can feel the thread trying to turn the screwdriver. But now that I've taken my hand off of that, that feels good, that's nice. I think that was over tightened. This engine hasn't been starting very well, and the owner said that it would start up eventually and it wouldn't then restart for a while, and I'm starting to think that maybe if the valve was hot, that it's sticking open, you're losing a bit of compression. It could be an interesting development. And the oil is a lot dirtier here, which suggests then it's probably burning, maybe burning some oil as well. So maybe we just found a little problem here, which is potentially quite constructive. Just have a quick reality check. Good. That was good. That was way over tight, I think. There's quite a clearance on it. Now, the reason they're probably thicker and thinner is to do with heat management and the expansion of material. And the clever people at Perkins very likely would have known after experimentation that because the valve, the exhaust valve, is taking heat away from the combustion process, it's travelling up the stem up to the top here, so you're going to get a tighter tolerance because of the heat. Obviously, because the colder valve, or the inlet valve as we call it, is getting a cold charge of air. It's cooler. It's going to be won't be as expanded quite as much, so therefore a slightly less tolerance, I'm guessing. So it's something to do with heat management anyway. Well, what I should have done before I started, actually, I'm going to just quickly do it now that I've just thought about it. Just put a spanner on these, just feel if they're loose. I think these are head studs. That's interesting. So that's imperial. So this is actually taking 11/16. I thought this would be an imperial, so why these are metric is, I don't know, but the spanner fits better than my imperial, so I'm not going to try and do these up. I just want to feel if they're loose. If they're loose, they affect this job, and then we've got a head gasket problem here. But no, that feels good. 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 I've had it in the past. You do work on an engine, you find that the rocker shaft brackets are loose, then you just spent ages doing something and you've got to go back and do it again, so that's fine. Right, let's get set up for number 2. So number 2 needs to be cranked around, so number 4 is just starting to rock on the inlet and exhaust. Okay, watch here. So that's the exhaust valve opening. So now the piston will be travelling back up to expel all the exhaust gases. Getting ready to open the inlet valve here for the new charge of air to start the combustion process all over again. And there we go, it's starting to rock here. I come back, so we're somewhere in the middle there. Now I can have a look at number 2. So, exhaust is on this side because of the way they've done the casting. Interesting. Definitely a bit of adjustment there, that's really flappy. Interesting. I say, just want the gauge to just grab, just be pinched just slightly, but enough for me to pull it, not enough for me to rip metal or just want, there we go, just like that. Just a tad bit tighter, there we go. That's nice, that's just pinching it. You know, there'll be machinists out there probably watching this going, that's not very accurate, but then I didn't invent the engine, and this process isn't going to be down to the thousands and thousands and thousands. It's like good enough for what we're doing, I guess. Just gonna come back off of that and just go a little bit tighter. Just want to just a little bit more. It's a bit tight now. Come back a bit. Back a bit. That's good. That's good. Nice, just nice in there. Right. Just fill the spanner. Hold the screwdriver still. Okay. Just lift that up. Let's have a feel. No, it's got a bit. That's a bit loose actually. So it's funny that how it goes. You just got to keep playing with it until it feels right. It really is just a question of intuitive nature and feeling what's happening. That's why they call them field gauges. There you go. The use of wording has appropriate meaning today. Right. That's tighter. This is playing funny games. That feels good from here. There, right there. So feel. So feel. That feels alright to me. I'm going to go a bit tighter again. It's being a bit fiddly, that one. I'm bending the feeler gauge at different positions because if you're bending it, you're putting pressure across the gap, which is not correct. I'm coming down and feeling different positions to try and make sure I'm not imagining what the gauge is actually doing. See, that's slackened right off there, so let me just put that back in. I just want the nut to loosen. Right, come back a bit. feel? That's better. That's more like it. Nice. Just grabbing it, just feeling it like that. Happy with that. Okay, let's look at the next inlet. Got a great big gap there. That needs definitely doing. I've got a feeling that these have all been done incorrectly. They all feel like they're over adjusted and under adjusted, so I don't know what's going on there. Most peculiar. That's nice. That's nice. I like that. Right there. And that's snugged in nice. That's a feel. Oh, see, that's loosened again now. Funny old things. How does that feel now? Oh, that's better. Nice. Lovely. Just pinching it. It's not scratching the metal at all. It's just literally wiping it through. So, I mean, you can see those stains, but there's no metal remove. It's just where it's literally just grabbing it. Okay. So I think we've found a trend here. I think we're finding that the exhaust valves are over adjusted and the inlet are under adjusted. So what I mean by over and under is that the exhaust are too tight. So what's happening is the valve isn't probably sitting on the seat correctly, and you're losing a tiny bit of compression, which is causing the oil to be dirtier, which we did notice with this engine. The oil is always a lot dirtier. It should be clean now because I only changed the oil like not long ago. Yeah, look, that's crystal clear. So nice and clean. And if it's hot, restarting an engine with poor compression is definitely going to be causing issues. So I think we're onto something here. So done number 2. So now we're on number 3. What we want now is number 4 to start rocking. So what's in the intake and exhaust? There we go. What we got here, so this is exhausting. This is now going to get rid of all the exhaust gases from the combustion process. It means the piston's now travelling back up, and that's gone all the way down, so it's into travel, now it's returning, and then it'll be almost back at the top. Now it's at the top and it's going to come back down, so the induction process, the air being drawn in by, so basically what happens is because the piston's dropping down, it creates a negative volume of pressure. There's no air in there, so you're creating a vacuum effectively, and then the atmosphere wants to rush in through the filter into the inlet manifold and into the piston chamber. Basically that's what's happening with this valve here. You can't actually see the valve itself. All you're seeing here is the rocker and the springs, and the other side the valves are hidden in the engine. So but, I've gone a bit too far there, actually. Too busy waffling away, not looking So let's just, so there's my sweet spot in the middle. Just get it not too far. That's about right. Okay, so we're doing a air intake first, I think. Right, let's double check. Just a quick gravity check, make sure I'm not imagining things. 2.08 thin one. Yep, and then that's the inlet, so that's what we're doing there. Let's check it. Now that one isn't too bad. So I'm going to leave that one alone. That's exactly where I'd want it to be. So that's nice, that's very nice. Good, okay. But the exhaust is a bit too tight on that. Feels good to me there. Now, again, a little bit too much, so let's go a bit tighter. Okay. A little bit tighter again. The gases, which is the correct operation of the engine, and because I'm spinning it, I'm decreasing the volume of space. The air's getting squashed and it's coming to squeeze past probably old valve seats and things like that, but I wasn't getting that when I started, which is how it goes sometimes. There's my rocking action, come back a bit, there, about there. We can check. So we're still on intake. Excellent. Make sure you can still see. Excellent. Right, check the last one again, and we should be in good order. Exhaust and then inlet. Excellent. Excellent. Actually, I would say that one's a little bit loose. Let's readjust that one, just for good measure. Just for good measure. It's a little bit loose. I didn't like how loose that was. Let's just come back a bit. Feels fine either way. Okay. No, that's really weird going on with that one. Feel. That's it. That's better. That's way better. Right. So there's my little setup. So basically, in line with listening to the owner of the engine, what we found is that the engine was poor to start. I think there's more than one problem here. There's a, I don't know if you can see it down here because of the light. I'll try and show you just here. This is a CAV 296, old Lucas style, but Delphi licensed. That's a clear bowl. There was a putty in that when I came over last week, the other week. So I've got an aluminium bowl to change on that. I'm considering that maybe some air's being drawn into that, but it's not leaking, so there must be a problem somewhere else in the fuel system because the owner's having to pump the fuel to restart it. Now, when I did the service, it started up straight away for me, but then I had primed the fuel system. However, I did notice the lift pump wasn't behaving. It wasn't drawing the fuel up. I had to use my vacuum pump to get the fuel flowing. So I'm wondering if the lift pump is a bit dicky on this. If it is, it is. I'm going to have to run back and get another one. So, but we've made some progress. The oil in this engine was black when I got it. The engine in the other side was clean. And the big difference we found on this one is that I think all the exhaust valves were adjusted badly. Too tight. Too tight meant that the camshaft was pushing up on all the working, so push rod or cam follower, push rod, rocker, and then pushing down on the valve, probably just enough to allow gases to bypass it, just enough to allow oil to run from the rockers, possibly down past the stem seals maybe, but just enough to cause that problem. As I say, when it gets hot, you're going to get a bigger gap. So there we go. There's that. Right, it's a little start of my cleanup. Actually, I won't use this stuff because this stuff dissolves paint and all that paint's going to come off. I'm going to get a rag. Say rag, get a bit of blue roll. And spray it onto this because it's such good cleaner. It's almost too powerful in some cases. Everywhere. Yeah, piece of some sort of scrubby Brillo pad. It's not great, is it? Where that's even come from. Well, I'm primarily focusing on just cleaning the seal bed, or the gasket bed, basically, where the sealant and the top, not copper, sorry, my son, I've got copper in my head. Cork gasket, let's get it right. Get that tube go in there. No. To persist with it either. So this is brake cleaner. It cuts through oil really, really well. It leaves no residue. A nice dry surface, and that way the gasket and well seal has got a good bed to adhere to. I'm going to have to go outside and clean that. So what I'm going to do is my hook. Just excuse the noise. Oh, mustn't forget the coffee. Doesn't look too bad from here. I'll bring the light back in a minute and have a look closer, but that'll do for now. Just whilst I go outside, I don't want any dust, you know, ending up in the engine that I can't see, because that would just be not a good thing. So let's go and do, basically I'm going to go out to the van. I'll film a little bit of it, but I'm not going to film too much because it's basically just me with a die grinder. I'm just going to clean this bed up basically and get that grime out. Then I'll come back and I'll film the gasket going in with the well seal. Bring you back in a sec. hoover that up later. But that's not too bad. It'll work. No doubts about that. Right. Just going to use some brake cleaner outside. Bear with me a second. I haven't allowed that to go anywhere. It's contained in there. I just didn't want it going inside my van. Just grab a piece of rag. Just soak that up. Brake cleaner evaporates into nothing like alcohol does, so it's a nice clean, dust-free rocker box now. There we go. Proper. Right, let's take it back and go and refit it. So what I'm going to do now, clean the inside of the rocker box out. Give it one quick more, another quick dust out. So that's the gasket in place. It's not obviously sat in place necessarily. I'm going to marry it up to the top of the engine, or bring it up to the top of the engine, and then settle it in and sort of wiggle around with it, put the fixings in place. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt, but that's the nature of engines, I suppose. I've had to use my phone to record now, so apologies if the imagery isn't as great as before. I really do need to buy new batteries for my GoPro, or just buy a new. I might just buy a digital camera actually. I don't think I'm very impressed with the batteries on GoPros. They just run out too quick. Let me see. Different angle of approach. Feeling this is just going to drop out, so. Let me grab the fixings. Actually, clip those. I'm going to have to just lay it in here because of the way things are going. Once. fiddly fingers drop things, never a good idea. Start to locate. Okay, so good. Okay, and that concludes valve clearances on a Perkins 635. Yeah, hopefully that was informative and useful. As I say, there's some other bits to do, but that's all I'm going to cover in this video because my GoPro's flat and holding a camera and filming things is just a bit of a pain, really. Hope you enjoyed that. If you liked it, please do click like and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow. And if you want more content like this, please just let me know what you think and suggest ideas, and I'll try to keep delivering. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.